I never thought my marriage would crumble over a joke. Not after surviving market crashes, sleepless newborn nights, and a mortgage on our dream home. But that Sunday at my in-laws' house changed everything. My wife's laughter cut deeper than any knife as she turned me into a punchline. My name is Nathan Brooks. I'm 45 years old, and I've spent the last decade climbing the ladder at Meriden Financial Partners in downtown Boston. Looking at me, most people see success. The nice house in the suburbs, the well-behaved kids, the beautiful wife, the American dream. Right. But behind closed doors, things weren't exactly picture perfect. Gloria and I met in our early 30s. She was teaching 4th grade at a private school, passionate about shaping young minds. I was already knee-deep in financial analysis, crunching numbers and forecasting market trends for clients whose net worth had more zeros than I could dream of. When we got engaged, we had a talk that every couple should have. What do we want our life to look like? We agreed pretty quickly. With my earning potential and her desire to be fully present for our future children, Gloria would step back from teaching. Once we started a family, I'd focus on being the breadwinner and she'd run the household. It seemed like a win-win situation. For the first couple of years, it was Marvin came along 5 years ago, and Gloria took to motherhood like she was born for it 2 years ago. Melinda joined our family, and our home became a whirlwind of sippy cups, stuffed animals, and sleepless nights. I couldn't have been prouder of the life we built together. My job at Meridian wasn't getting any easier, though. If anything, each promotion meant longer hours, more responsibility, and higher stakes. During earnings season, I'd be lucky to see the kids awake. I dragged myself home after 11-hour days, my brain fried from staring at spreadsheets and plating nervous investors. Most not night. I'd collapse on the couch, barely able to form a coherent sentence. But that was the deal, right? I brought home the bacon, paid for mortgage on our colonial in Newton, funded the kids' college accounts, and made sure Gloria could buy organic everything at Whole Foods without checking the price tags. In return, she managed the home front, doctor appointments, play dates, meal planning, and making sure Marvin and Melinda were thriving. I never considered myself a hands-off dad. When I had time, I was all in building blanket forts, reading bedtime stories, the whole 9 yards. But the reality was, Gloria knew the kids' routines like the back of her hand. She knew which stuffed animal Melinda needed to fall asleep and exactly how to cut Marvin's sandwiches so he'd actually eat them. Looking back, I guess that's where it started. The little comments that seemed innocent enough at first. "Nate, honey, that's not how you put on Melinda's shoes, sweetie. Marvin can't have peanut butter before bed." You know that they were just corrections, right? Just glory in making sure things ran smoothly. But somewhere along the way, those helpful hints turned into something else. Something that little by little started to chip away at me in ways I didn't fully understand until it was almost too late. It started small, as these things usually do a chuckle here, and I roll there nothing that would set off alarm bells. The first time I really noticed it was a Saturday morning about a year ago. Gloria had a hair appointment, her first me time in weeks, and left me with detailed instructions for the kids. Feed Marvin his gluten-free waffles. Make sure Melinda took her vitamin, the usual drill. I'd handled the kids solo plenty of times before. No big deal. "Just try not to burn the house down," she joked as she grabbed her purse. I laughed along, gave her a kiss goodbye, and thought nothing of it. When she returned 3 hours later, the house was still standing, but admittedly in disarray. Melinda had decided her yogurt would look better in her hair than in her mouth. And Marvin had constructed what he called a pillow kingdom in a living room. I was in the middle of damage control. When Gloria walked in, she surveyed the scene, put her hands on her hips, and started laughing. "Oh, Nate, I leave you alone for 3 hours. and it's like Lord of the Flies in here again." I chuckled along with her. What else was I supposed to do? The kids were happy if a bit sticky and no one was injured. Mission accomplished in my book. That night, I overheard her on the phone with her sister. You should have seen it, Cynthia. It was like Nate had never taken care of his own children before. Total deer in headlights. Men write something about the way she said it didn't sit right with me. I wasn't some clueless sitcom dad who couldn't figure out which end of the baby to diaper, but I brushed it off. Everyone vents to their siblings. A few weeks later, I came home early from work, a minor miracle given my usual schedule, and decided to surprise the family by making dinner. Nothing fancy, just spaghetti and meatballs. One of the few meals I could manage, without consulting a recipe. When Gloria walked into the kitchen and saw me browning the meat, her eyebrows shot up. Well, look, who thinks he's Gordon Ramsay tonight? She picked up her phone. This needs to be documented for posterity. The rarest of sightings, Nathan Brooks in his natural habitat attempting to cook. She snapped a few pictures, laughing the whole time. I try to play long, even hamming it up a bit for the camera. But something about being treated like some exotic animal at the zoo for doing a basic adult task didn't feel great. Later that evening, while we ate dinner, which turned out pretty decent, if I do say so myself, Gloria kept the jokes coming. "Careful, kids. Daddy made this, so we should probably check for shells or mysterious objects before each bite." Marvin giggled. Did Daddy mess up again? That word hung in the air. My 5-year-old already had the impression that me attempting anything domestic automatically meant failure. I forced a smile and changed the subject. It wasn't worth making a fuss about. Besides, it was just a joke. Over the next few months, the comments became more frequent and cut deeper. Gloria's jokes had evolved from gentle ribbing to something that felt calculated to undermine me. One evening in September, I came home from an especially brutal day. The market had taken a nosedive. CL were panicking, and my boss had me working on contingency plans. Until well past 7, I dragged myself through the front door, desperate for a moment of peace. Instead, I found Melinda in full meltdown mode. Her favorite stuffed bunny was missing, and the world was apparently ending because of it. "Hey, Princess," I said, dropping my briefcase and kneeling to her level. "Let's find Mr. Hoppy together." Her sobs quieted. As I methodically searched the house, I'd learned from experience that the bunny usually ended up under furniture or in the laundry basket. Sure enough, after 15 minutes of hunting, I found him wedged between the couch cushions. Melinda's face lit up. As I handed her the toy, I felt a surge of satisfaction. I might not be around as much as I'd like, but I could still come through for my kids when it mattered. Gloria walked in, just as Melinda was giving me a thank you hug. "Would you look at that?" she said, leaning against the doorframe. Nathan Brooks, financial wizard by day, barely competent dad by night. The words stung. I just successfully navigated a crisis, however small, and instead of acknowledgement, I got another jab. "Very funny," I replied, my tone sharper than intended. Gloria raised an eyebrow. Geez, someone can't take a joke. Today, I bit back my response. I was too tired for an argument. The pattern continued when I took the kids to the park on Saturday and returned with Marvin sporting a scraped knee from a fall off the monkey bars. Gloria sighed dramatically. "I swear, Nate, I can't trust you with them for 3 hours without someone getting injured." Never mind that I'd handled the situation perfectly clean. The wound applied a bandage and turned Marvin's tears into laughter by letting him pick out his battle scar bandage. When I struggled to recall the name of Marvin's teacher during phone conversation, Gloria rolled her eyes and mounted to her friend, hopeless. Each comment felt like a paper cut, minor in isolation, but in care and inly painful as they accumulated. One night, as I helped Marvin with his kindergarten homework, he looked up at me with genuine surprise when I explained a math concept. "Wow, Dad, you're actually good at this," he exclaimed. Actually hit me like a sucker punch. My 5-year-old was already surprised that his father could be competent at something outside of work, and I knew exactly where he'd gotten that impression. I straightened my shoulders and looked my son in the eye. "Buddy, there are lots of things I'm good at. I might not be here all the time, but that doesn't mean I don't know how to take care of you and your sister." Later, when I mentioned the incident to Gloria, she laughed it off. "Oh, come on, he's 5. Don't be so sensitive." But it wasn't about sensitivity. It was about respect. And I was starting to realize just how little I was getting at home. What had once been private comments between Gloria and me soon became public entertainment. It seemed like every social gathering became an opportunity for her to showcase my supposed ineptitude as a father. The first time it happened was at a neighborhood barbecue. I was manning the grill, one domain where I actually had some confidence. When Melinda came running over with a scraped elbow from a fall on the driveway, I immediately went into dad mode, cleaned the scrape with a napkin dipped in water, found a Band-Aid in my wallet. I'd started carrying them for exactly this reason and had her laughing again. Within minutes, Gloria approached with a group of neighborhood moms just as I was finishing up. "Ladies," witness the rare of sights, she announced theatrically, Nathan actually handling a minor emergency without calling for backup. The women laughed, and I forced a smile while something twisted in my gut. What should have been a simple moment of fatherhood had become a spectacle. The next weekend, we had dinner with my colleagues from Meridian. These were people I needed to impress, whose respect was crucial to my career. Gloria had promised to be on her best behavior. Halfway through dinner, the conversation turned to family life. My boss mentioned how challenging it was balancing work and home responsibilities. "Tell me about it." Gloria jumped in with a laugh. "Nate here can analyze market trends like nobody's business. But ask him to match Melinda's outfits, and suddenly he's completely lost. Last week he sent her to daycare in pajama pants and a dress-up tiara. The table erupted in laughter. It wasn't even true. Melinda had insisted on the tiara, and the pants were leggings that looked like pajamas. I thought the battle wasn't worth fighting. That morning the kids were dressed and fed. I said evenly, trying to maintain my dignity, "Mission accomplished." My boss clapped me on the shoulder. "Don't worry, Brooks. I won't send my kid to school with an empty lunchbox." We all fumble sometimes. His attempt at camaraderie only underscored what Gloria had accomplished, painting me as an incompetent father who fumbled basic childcare tasks. In reality, I handled whatever came my way when I was home, from nightmares to homework, to improvised meals when we were out of groceries. The final straw came at Marvin's parent-teacher conference. Miss Winters was explaining his progress in Reading when she mentioned he'd been bringing in advanced books from home. "That's all, Nathan," Gloria interjected before I could speak. "He's trying to turn our 5-year-old into a financial analyst already." I keep telling him, "Honey, normal kids read Goodnight Moon, not the Wall Street Journal." M. Winters looked confused. "Actually, I think it's wonderful. Marvin's vocabulary is exceptional for his age." I sat up straighter in my chair. We read together every night. "I'm home," I stated firmly. "Marvin picks the books. I just make time for it." On the drive home, I finally said something. "Do you have to turn me into a punchline at every opportunity?" Gloria seemed genuinely surprised. "What are you talking about?" I'm just making conversation. No, you're making me look like an idiot, and it needs to stop. She rolled her eyes. You need to lighten up, Nate. It's just a little harmless fun. But as I gripped the steering wheel, I knew there was nothing harmless about it. The damage was already spreading beyond our home. I started noticing a troubling pattern in how others interacted with me. Gloria's jokes had spread like a virus, infecting everyone's perception of me as a father. At Marvin's soccer practice, Coach Thompson handed out the season schedule and made a beeline for me. Brooks, I've highlighted the important dates, he said slowly, as if speaking to a child Gloria mentioned. You might need some extra reminders. My jaw clenched. I'd never missed a game I could attend, and I kept a meticulous calendar. I manage billion-dual portfolios, Thompson. I replied, coolly, I think I can handle a soccer schedule. He looked taken aback, and I immediately regretted my tone. But damn it, I was tired of being treated like an idiot. Even my mother had started buying into the narrative during her monthly visit. She hovered anxiously as I prepared Melinda's lunch. Nate, dear, are you sure that's enough food? Gloria says she's going through a growth spurt. Mom, I feed my kids every day, I said, trying to keep the edge out of my voice. I'm pretty familiar with their appetites. The real gut punch came when I overheard Marvin talking to his friend during play date. My dad's really smart about money stuff, he was saying proudly, and my heart swelled. Then came the follow-up. But Mom says he'd lose his head if it wasn't attached when it comes to everything else. That night I stared at the ceiling, unable to sleep. How would I let this go so far? My own son was pairing. Glory is dismissive attitude. What would happen as the kids got older? Would they stop coming to me with problems, assuming I couldn't handle anything outside of financial matters? More importantly, why was I allowing my wife to systematically undermine me? I'd build my career on commanding respect, making tough calls, and standing my ground. Yet at home, I'd become a punchline. The truth hit me like a freight train. I was afraid that pushing back would lead to conflict, afraid that demanding respect might damage our family dynamic, afraid that maybe, just maybe, Gloria was right, and I really was a subpar father. But another, stronger part of me knew better. I coached Marvin's soccer team when work allowed. I taught Melinda to swim last summer, spending hours in the pool until she could paddle confidently to the steps. I read financial reports aloud to lull them to sleep when they were infants. For God's sake, I was a damn good father, different from Gloria, certainly, but no less capable. And it was time I started acting like it. The next morning, I made a decision. The jokes had to stop, not just for my sake, but for our children who deserve to see both their parents treated with respect. I just needed the right moment to address it. The opportunity to address the issue with Gloria came sooner than expected. After a particularly exhausting day, a meridian one that involved calming panic clients through a market correction, I arrived home to find the house unusually quiet. Gloria was alone in the kitchen, scrolling through her phone. The kids were at her mother's for the evening. Hey, I said, loosening my tie. Where are the kids? Mom took them for ice cream and a movie. I needed a break. She glanced up. You look like hell, rough day. I poured myself a scotch, taking a moment to gather my thoughts. Actually, Gloria, can we talk? She raised an eyebrow. Sounds serious. I sat across from her at the island. It's about the jokes. What jokes? The ones about me being clueless with the kids, about how I can't do anything right outside of work. Gloria rolled her eyes. Oh, come on, Nate, not this again. Yes, this again, I said firmly, because it's not just between us anymore. It's affecting how everyone sees me, the kids, other parents, even my own mother. She crossed her arms. You're being too sensitive? No, I'm not. I insisted, keeping my voice level when Marvin starts repeating to his friends that I'd lose my head if it wasn't attached. We have a problem. For a moment, something like recognition flickered across her face. Then her defenses snapped back into place. It's just harmless teasing, Nate. Everyone jokes about their spouse. Half the moms at school have the same complaints about their husbands, but that's just it. I'm not like half the husbands. When I'm home, I'm present. I'm engaged. I don't deserve to be your personal punchline. Glor is phone bust? She glanced at it, then stood up. Look, I don't want to fight about this. You've had a long day, and you're clearly on edge. I'm not on edge. I said, frustration mounting. I'm trying to have an honest conversation about something that's hurting me and our family, hurting you. She laughed incredulously. I'm acknowledging reality, Nate. You work 70 hours a week. You miss school events. You don't know the kids' routines because you're not here most of the time. Her words hit like body blows. Yes, I worked long hours, but that was our agreement. The bargain we'd struck together, and when I was home, I gave everything I had to the kids. That's not fair. I set my voice tight. We agreed I would focus on providing for the family. That doesn't make me less of a father. Gloria grabbed her keys from the counter. I need to pick up the kids. We can talk about this another time when you're not being so dramatic. As she walked out, leaving me alone with my untouched scotch, I realized the conversation had failed completely. She hadn't heard me, or worse, she'd heard, but didn't care. Either way, nothing had changed. The Sunday brunch at Gloria Parents' house had been a tradition since before the kids were born. Usually, I looked forward to these gatherings. Her father was a retired investment banker with great stories, and her mother made French toast that could make a grown man S. This particular Sunday, however, I was on edge. My failed attempt to talk to Gloria had left me raw, and I was dreading another public performance of Nathan, the incompetent dad. We arrived with the kids in tow, Marvin clutching his latest Lego creation and Melinda dressed in the tutu. She'd refused to take off for 3 days straight. There they are. Gloria's mother enveloped the kids in hogs, while her father clapped me on the shoulder for the first hour. Everything was fine. We ate, caught up on news, and watched the kids play with their cousins. I started to relax, thinking maybe today would be different. I should have known better, as Gloria helped her mother clear the plates. Marvin ran in from the backyard with a scraped knee. Nothing serious, but he was looking for comfort. He came straight to me. I scooped him up, examined the scrape, and carried him to the bathroom to clean it by the time we returned with Marvin, proudly sporting superhero Band-Aid. Gloria was telling a story to the assembled family, and I came home to find Nathan had given Melinda chocolate milk right before bed. You can imagine the result. The sheets looked like something from a horror movie. Everyone laughed. I clenched my jaw remembering the incident. Melinda had been sick, refusing to drink anything else. The doctor had been more concerned about dehydration than clean sheets. Then, last week, Gloria continued warming to her topic. He tried to help with the laundry and turned all of Marvin's white school shirts pink. More laughter. The laundry incident had been an honest mistake. Melinda's red sock hidden in a pillowcase. I'd already replaced the shirts. I swear it's like having 3 children instead of 2. I can't leave them alone with basic household tasks. For stop. The word came out sharper than I intended. The room fell silent. Nate. Gloria looked confused. Just stop. I set Marvin down. Gently stop turning me into a joke for your family's entertainment. Her father cleared his throat, uncomfortably. Letton, give these two a minute. He suggested, ushering everyone toward the patio. When we were alone, Gloria's confusion turned to anger. What is wrong with you? What's wrong with me? I kept my voice controlled, despite the anger churning inside. You've been systematically undermining me as a father for months. You've turned me into a punchline, and I'm done with it. They're just stories. Nate, lighten up. No, that's to my ground. They're not just stories. They're disrespectful, they're hurtful, and they're teaching our children that it's okay to mock their father. She rolled her eyes. You're being dramatic. Something snapped inside me. Is it dramatic to want basic respect for my wife? Is it dramatic to expect you to build me up instead of tearing me down? Because if it is, then yes, I'm being dramatic. I grabbed my car keys from the counter. I need some air. Where you going? Her voice had lost its edge, uncertainty creeping in. I don't know, I said honestly. But I can't stay here and pretend everything's fine. As I walked out the door, passing her confused family on the porch, I felt a strange mix of guilt and relief in my head. I silently said goodbye to the version of myself that would have swallowed his pride and laughed along with everyone else. That man was gone. I ended up at the Harbor View Hotel, a mid-range place near the financial district, where we put up clients from out of town. The front desk clerk recognized me from company events and didn't ask questions. When I requested a room with no innate specified once alone, I sent Gloria a text. Staying at Harbor VW, need time to think, we'll call kids before bedtime. Her response came quickly. You're being ridiculous. The kids are confused. I didn't reply. Instead, I called my assistant and arranged to have some clothes and toiletries delivered from the department store down the street. Then I took a long shower and tried to clear my head. That evening, I called the house as promised. Gloria put the kids on speakerphone and I did my best to sound upbeat. When are you coming home, Daddy? Melinda asked, her little voice, making my chest tight soon. Princess Daddy just has some work to finish. After reassuring them both and promising to bring home surprises, I ended the call before Gloria could get back on the line. 3 days passed in a strange limbo. I went to work, performed my duties with mechanical precision, then returned to my hotel room each night. I called the kids faithfully, but kept conversations with Gloria brief and logistical on the 4th day. Phone rang during lunch. Gloria's father's name flashed on the screen. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity went out. Nathan, it's Robert, got a minute? I braced myself for a lecture about family responsibility instead. Why God surprised me? I want you to know. I understand why you left. He said without preamble, you do. Gloria's mother used to do the same thing to me, not the exact same jokes, but the same pattern, making me the butt of every story, laughing at my expense. I nearly dropped my fork. How did you handle it? Not well at first, he admitted. I stewed, I sulked, I worked longer hours, but eventually I did what you did. I confronted it head-on. It doesn't seem to have made much difference, I said bitterly. It will, he assured me. Glory is stubborn. Gets that from her mother, but she's also smart. She's starting to realize what she's been doing. I wanted to believe him, but the skepticism must have shown in my silence. She's been quiet these past few days. Robert continued, reflective. She told her mother that she might have been a little hard on you coming for Gloria. That's practically a full confession. Despite everything, I felt a flicker of hope. Has she said anything to the kids? That's actually why I'm calling. I overheard her telling Marvin that Daddy works hard to take care of us, and we should appreciate that more. Not exactly an apology, but a start. After we hung up, I sat staring at my cooling lunch. Was this enough? Was a slight shift in attitude worth returning home for? The answer wasn't simple, but one thing was clear. Running away hadn't solved anything. If Gloria was truly reflecting on her behavior, maybe there's a chance for a real conversation. And if not, well, I'd already proven I could walk away if necessary. That night, I texted Gloria, "Coming home tomorrow, we need to talk." Her response was uncharacteristically subdued. "Okay, the kids miss you. I miss you too." The house looked exactly the same when I returned, but something felt different. Maybe it was me. Gloria was waiting in the kitchen, a tentative smile on her face. The kids were at school. A deliberate choice, I suspected, to give us space to talk. Coffee she offered. I nodded, settling at the island counter for a moment. Neither of us spoke. "Your father called me." I finally said. Gloria's eyebrows rose. "He did. He told me he understood why I left, that your mother used to do the same thing to him." She looked away, busying herself with a coffee maker. "He never told me that. Maybe he didn't know how to bring it up, or maybe you thought it wasn't that big a deal." I accepted the mug she handed me. "Just like you thought it wasn't a big deal with me." Gloria sat across from me, her eyes meeting mine directly. For what felt like the first time in months, I've been thinking about what you said. I waited, giving her space to continue. "I didn't see it, how the jokes were adding up, how they were affecting you." She traced the rim of her mug. "But when you left, I started replaying things in my head. The look on your face in my parents' house, the way Marvin repeated my words. It wasn't just about my feelings," I said carefully. "It was about our family. The kids absorb everything, Gloria. When you treat me like I'm incompetent, they learn to see me that way too." She nodded slowly. "I know, and I'm sorry, Nate." Truly, the sincerity in her voice caught me off guard. I prepared for defensiveness, for minimizing, not for a straightforward apology. "What changed?" I asked. "Marvin asked me if you left because you were mad at him for saying you would lose your head if it wasn't attached." Her voice wavered. He was worried. It was his fault. That's when I realized what I've been teaching him. Something tight in my chest began to loosen. This was progress. Real progress. "Where do we go from here?" I asked. "I want to do better." She said simply, "I've already started. I told the kids how hard you work for us, how smart you are about so many things, not just money. It wasn't a complete solution, but it was a beginning. The road ahead would require vigilance from both of us. My willingness to speak up, when her commitment to breaking a damaging habit. I've missed you," she admitted softly. "The house doesn't feel right without you." I reached across the island to take her hand. "I missed you too, but I can't come back to the way things were." "I know," she said, "and I don't want that either. I want us to be better." For the first time in months, I believed we could be. 6 months after my hotel stay, life had found a new rhythm. The change wasn't dramatic or instant, Rayal. Change rarely is, but day by day, conversation by conversation, Gloria and I rebuild something stronger than what we had before. The jokes didn't disappear overnight. Old habits die hard. But now, when Gloria started to slip into that familiar pattern, she'd catch herself. Sometimes I'd see her physically bite her tongue. Other times, she'd rephrase mid-sentence, turning what might have been a punchline at my expense into something more neutral or even supportive. More importantly, she began actively building me up in front of the kids' daddies. Really good at explaining math problems, Marvin. Why don't you ask him to help with your homework? Or did you know your father taught himself Tuxi in college? He makes the best omelets. These small validations healed wounds I hadn't even realized were still raw. For my part, I made changes too. I started leaving work earlier on Wednesdays to coach Marvin's soccer practice. I scheduled regular daddy-daughter dates with Melinda. I learned Gloria's complex household systems instead of relying on her to translate them for me. The real test came during the annual neighborhood block party as we chatted with neighbors. Someone asked about our recent family vacation to Cape Cod. Nate planned the whole thing. Gloria set her hand finding mine. He found this amazing little beach house and arranged sailing lessons for the kids. He thinks of details. I'd never consider the warmth that spread through me had nothing to do with the summer heat. This was what partnership felt like. Having someone who highlighted your strengths rather than mocking your weaknesses. Later that night, after the kids were asleep, Gloria and I sat on the porch swing watching fireflies rise from the lawn. We almost lost this, she said quietly, if you hadn't stood up for yourself, but I did. I interrupted gently, and you listened. That's what matters. She leaned her head against my shoulder. I never wanted to hurt you, Nate. I just didn't realize how much those jokes were costing us. The price had indeed been steep. My dignity, the children's respect, the foundation of our marriage. But we managed to pull back from a brink. I'm glad you came home, she whispered. I tightened my arm around her. I'm glad I had something worth coming home to. We weren't perfect, we never would be. But we learned something crucial. In a marriage, words matter, respect matters, and sometimes fighting for that respect. Even when it's uncomfortable, even when it means walking away temporarily, is the most important battle a man can win by.